Welcome back. All right, time to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, a team which surprised many by making the playoffs this past year. Also, the sweater I'm wearing, and it is a sweater, is one that I got from the Montreal Canadiens team store this summer. It did not arrive in time to get into my jersey rankings, so it's fun. The way you can tell the old logo, of course, is that these two spots do not meet. If you look at the C logo they have now, there isn't this space. But it's nice. It's kind of a cream colored, and it's a sweater. Definitely a sweater. So, Montreal Canadiens. Do they make it back to the playoffs this year? That is a hot topic of conversation. That being said, people seem to be a little more positive when it comes to Montreal than negative when you look at the channel vote. But we will get to that. Starting off with the top six for the Montreal Canadiens, this is going to be an interesting group, depending on health and depending on development. So the top line, Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slafkovsky. That line has arrived. Anybody who I did a video on who I thought may have had a career year, I got creative with Montreal. I went with Lane Hutson because I don't think he necessarily follows up the season he just had with more points. It doesn't mean I don't think he'll eventually have 75, 80, 90-point seasons and such. I just think this season he may fall back. But there were a lot of comments about, hey, Suzuki had a career year. I don't think he did. I think Suzuki is just finally getting to that level that we always knew he could, and I think going forward he should be a 90-plus point forward. Caulfield, excellent goal scorer, should get into that 40-goal range, and Slafkovsky, maybe this is the year where he gets up to point per game himself. Zachary Bolduc is going to be very interesting to see how he follows up on what was a really strong rookie season for the St. Louis Blues. I think this was a great addition by the Montreal Canadiens. And then it's Kirby Dach. Can Kirby Dach stay healthy? You're not allowed to say no. You're not allowed to say no when I've just asked a question that we don't necessarily know the answer. No, you don't know the answer to that. You think you know the answer to that. I'm going to be optimistic and say, sure, Kirby Dach can stay healthy. The other question to that then becomes, with all the injuries, all the games missed and everything, can Kirby Dach be a reliable second-line center? I think that's a valid question to ask. And then there's Demidov. Demidov is going to be a rookie. He is the favorite right now to win the Calder Trophy in 2026. So if he lives up to his advanced billing, I think this team's going to share goals. I think this can be a top team in terms of goal scoring. I'd say top 12, maybe, in scoring in the NHL. This past season, they were 17th, so maybe they get up into that top 12. Now, their bottom six, Brendan Gallagher had a pretty good year, but ideally he's in the bottom six. Newhook, Josh Anderson, and then where it gets interesting too is you've got Veleno, who's been added, Evans, who stayed rather than going. And where does Laine play? So I'm not going to disagree with the positioning that I saw from Puckpedia, thus I've left him in that bottom six as well. But Laine's place in this lineup is one that's got me saying he's one to watch. If Laine gets off to a really strong start to the season and pushes his way into the top six, it's possible that hurts Demidov's ice time, and we see less points from Demidov as a result. So there's going to be some good internal pushing when it comes to Laine's position within the lineup. You have to think Demidov's going to want special teams time as well, so we'll see what that does to Patrik Laine, who is in the final year of a contract. I think the expectation is he probably gets traded. I don't know that Montreal looks to retain him long term or what he's going to be looking for coming out of this coming season, but he is very up and down as a player, and it feels like his career has been very up and down. This is his third team now. Does he stay in Montreal or does he move on elsewhere? Then you look at the depth. They've got Kapanen, who looked good in games that he played with the team. I still like Josh Roy. I do. I still think that we may very well see Roy in this lineup. Maybe he makes things difficult for the general manager around training camp too as to who's going to get waived and sent down or who's just going to get sent down. Obviously, Roy doesn't need waivers, but we'll see. Now, there's Beck. A lot of Montreal fans excited to see Beck in the lineup regularly, and there isn't an opening there for him right now. So he has to force himself into the conversation as well. Condotta, Sammy Blais, and I know when they added Blais, there's Montreal fans that think that he's going to end up in their lineup. I don't think Blais pushes anybody out of the lineup. Maybe he's that 13th forward. He had a strong season for Abbotsford, part of the team that wins the Calder Cup, but I don't know if Sammy Blais at this point in time is a National Hockey League player. So we'll see whether or not he stays with the team or if they waive him and send him down to Laval. I'm guessing he ends up at the very least starting the season in Laval. Belzile, Davidson, Farrell. Farrell's another one who's considered to still have some NHL upside. Florian Xhekaj may end up playing preseason. I like to see him and Arbor Xhekaj playing at least on the ice at the same time. Obviously, Arbor's a defenseman, Florian's a forward. Messar, Kidney, Luke Tuck, and also there's a new Koivu on the block that I don't have listed here. But Koivu's turned a few heads, and there's the possibility that he gets into a preseason game, and we'll see how he does there. So this is a good forward group. I think Montreal has a good forward group. I think the fact that Line A isn't, necessarily just gifted a top 6 spot based on his name, based on his goal-scoring ability, tells you there's some depth here. Then we get to the blue line. Mike Matheson. Does he finish the season as a Montreal Canadien? We'll see, but he's there now. And I say that because if this team does fall off the pace at all, that's where you're going to want to see how many of these veteran players stick around and how many they might move on from. Just because when you look at the defense for Montreal, it's pretty deep in all honesty. You've got Dobson who's been added. I think Dobson's ice time is going to eat into a little bit of the ice time that Hudson got this past season. It's another reason why I think Hudson's numbers may come down a little bit, because Dobson's going to get into that 50-point range himself. Caden Gooley, a much beloved defenseman, and rightfully so when it comes to Montreal fans. There's Lane Hudson. Then you've got Xhekaj and Carrier, likely rounding out the top 6. And then you've got Struble. Struble, of course, was a restricted free agent this summer, did sign the extension with him. Del Gaizo has arrived from Nashville. He's going to be, I would think he might be the number 7 defenseman, but that would push Struble down to number 8, so we'll see. Reinbacher. So when's Reinbacher going to get that opportunity to play on this team? And are we at a stage yet where Montreal might consider putting Reinbacher on the block? And I know how crazy that sounds, but it does feel like there's a lot of defensemen here. Engstrom, Trudeau, and Klerman rounding things out. Not as many players as some other teams have, but the quality, I would say, especially with Struble, Del Gaizo, and Reinbacher, does make it fascinating and make it possible that the Montreal Canadiens look to make a move. Now, the goaltending, we know the goaltending can be quite good. And I still have Montembeault and Dobesh. And I know others are saying Kakinen for the backup. Kakinen's numbers have not been good at the NHL level. And I really think that he is best suited to being Laval's starting goaltender. Sharing the net maybe with Jacob Fowler, who's a good prospect too. But I think Dobesh has earned the right to be their backup goaltender. The numbers that Dobesh put up this past season were quite good. So I really think Dobesh is still going to end up being the backup for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, the MVP, I'm going with Suzuki there. I'm going with Suzuki because I do think he's their best forward. I think he's a very creative forward. He's a very good two-way forward. And so my expectation is that Suzuki will be their MVP. The one to watch is Line A, as I mentioned before, because he may very well find himself with limited ice time. He's definitely going to get time on the power play. Is he going to be one of these players that we see like 40 points from, but 30 of them are power play points? Somewhere in that, at least that ratio, maybe 3 out of every 4 points he gets is on the power play. We shall see. Now, cap space, they don't have any on the surface. They're $5,931,667 over the cap. However, Carey Price, final year of his contract, $10.5 million. That cap space will be there come opening night because we know Carey Price is going on LTIR. He will not play hockey again. Now, when we look at the schedule, in October, 7 out of 11 games are away from home. So they're going to have to be good on the road at the start of the season to keep themselves above water when it comes to the playoff picture. However, in November, 8 out of 13 are at home. So they have a strong home record that could show up in November. December, 8 out of 15 at home, and things are pretty balanced the rest of the way, to be honest. 8 out of 16 are at home in January. So they're one of these teams that has a 16-game month. They also have 2 15-game months. They're going to be a tired bunch. February, 2 out of 4 are at home. So again, at least it's balanced. March, 8 out of 15 are away from home. And by my count in April, 4 out of 8 are at home. So half their games are home and away in April. February, January, all those months it's half and half. And in December and March, first it's 8 versus 7 home, and then it's 8 versus 7 away. So It is at least a balanced schedule for Montreal, but a busy one at times as well. So we'll see if that helps them or not. General manager Kent Hughes has quickly built up a reputation, I think, as one of the better general managers in the National Hockey League. Coach Marty St. Louis looks like he's having fun behind the bench. And I think when you're going through a rebuild, as these guys have, showing that you're having a little bit of fun and enjoying your time behind the bench is important. Now, the channel vote went thusly. 5% believe this team will be first or second. I do like the optimism there. Or you voted that way because you think the Atlantic Division isn't going to be very good. 58% say third or fourth. 32% say fifth or sixth. And 5% say seventh or eighth. So the Montreal Canadiens, 63% of you believe they'll be top four. 37% believe otherwise. So I do think this is going to be a top four team. I don't see any reason to think this team's going to fall back at all, because I don't think they've lost any talent. Definitely not up front. The additions of Demidov and Bolduc should help them out quite a bit. So I think this is going to be a Montreal team that maybe they're going to surprise people again. At the very least, 37% of the vote could be surprised by how things turn out. Now, the record since 2021-2022, not a surprise that they're 28th. 123 wins, 161 regulation losses, and then 44 losses in overtime and shootouts. Their top five scorers over that time period, Nick Suzuki leading them there, not a surprise. 328 games, 110 goals, 183 assists for 293 points. Very reliable and looking like he's going to be a point per game forward at the very least going forward. Caulfield, 277 games, 114 goals, and even 100 assists for 214 points. Mike Matheson, 210 games, 25 goals, 102 assists for 127 points. Jake Evans, 290 games, 35 goals, 77 assists, 112 points. And, of course, keeping him, I think, was a key for the Montreal Canadiens. And then Josh Anderson, 297 games, 64 goals, 47 assists for 111 points. And very likely to remain with the team, at least for now. But like I said, if this team does struggle, we'll see if that changes the plans for Kent Hughes and if players become available for the trade. Now, top prospects, most of their top prospects are either in the league or these top prospects are pushing for a job. So I went with, I believe it's Michael Hagee. And at the very least, this is a team that already has a whole bunch of good young players. So the fact I only have one under the top prospects, not really a big deal. Really isn't. Their 2024-2025 record, 40-31-11. I would not be surprised to see them win at least 40 games, if not more. I think 44-45 might be in that range. And if they do that, and if you get enough extra points, you end up in that 9,800 point range. Montreal very likely a playoff team again. The scoring leaders for this season, Suzuki was the leading scorer, 82 games, 30 goals, 59 assists, 89 points. And I still think he's going to score more than that this year. Caulfield, 82 games, 37 goals, 33 assists for 70 points. Lane Hudson, 82 games, 6 goals, 60 assists for 66 points. Slafkovsky, 79 games, 18 goals, 33 assists for 51 points. I think Slafkovsky should be in the 65-point range this year. I do. And then Gallagher, 82 games, 21 goals, 17 assists, 38 points. Kind of a bounce-back year for Gallagher offensively after a couple of down ones. So the goaltenders this past season, of course, helped them out too. Montembeault being the key. 31-24-7 record, 902 save percentage. And like I said, Dobesh looked good. 7-4-3 record with a 909 save percentage. So I don't see any reason why he's not the backup this coming fall. And then you got Primo, 2-3-1 with an 836 save percentage. He is no longer part of the Montreal Canadiens organization, and it was time for both the player and the team to sever that tie. So the Montreal Canadiens have a good picture going forward of what their goaltending could look like. You got Fowler in the minors ready to come up. Their forward group's pretty good, and their defense has the makings of an excellent defense. Now, looking at the last 5 years of playoffs, this is pretty easy. Back in 2021, they went all the way to the final. They lost in that final against Tampa. It took 5 games for Tampa to knock them out. They did not make the playoffs in 2022, 2023, or 2024. And this year in the first round series against Washington, they could not replicate 2010. They lost in 5 games against the Washington Capitals in that first round. So for those who didn't believe that Montreal belonged there anyways, they could hang their hat on that. And for people who believe Montreal is an up-and-coming team to keep an eye on, you can hang your hat on the fact they made the playoffs at all. In terms of their numbers, their power play was at 20.1%. That's 21st in the National Hockey League. Their penalty kill, 80.9%. That's 9th in the National Hockey League. That's impressive. Their goals for was 17th in the league at 2.96 goals per game. Their goals against, 22nd at 3.18 goals against per game. So they allowed more goals than they scored. I think that trend will change this year. I also think their goals against should get better as they've added Dobson on the blue line. I know Dobson, there's a lot of people think he's just offense. But statistically, if you look at the analytics, he's not bad defensively either. He's not going to make you forget some of the elite defensive defensemen, but he's good. And so I think the numbers are going to get better for Montreal's defense with Dobson there. And it really does create a pretty solid group of 6 defensemen, no matter who ends up maybe pushing out Carrier or Jackeye. If somebody pushes one of them out, it's still going to be an excellent top 6. And then that shows the strength in this organization when it comes to the blue line. But I think Montreal's going to be entertaining. I think they're going to win their share of games. I would not be surprised to see them make the playoffs again. I do expect them to be a pick by people to miss the playoffs of the teams that made it this past season. I've mentioned how the odds makers have Montreal's odds longer than at least 1 or 2 teams that have missed the playoffs this year. I know the Rangers have better odds than they do. That's a team Montreal's going to have to keep in the rearview mirror. You have to think the Rangers are going for a wild card spot. Probably not top 3 in the Metro, but if they do become top 3, then that's going to knock a team down Montreal's going to have to stay ahead of as well. The Atlantic Division at this point in time is gaining a reputation as maybe the toughest division in the NHL. How Montreal performs this year, and then, of course, how other teams perform would decide. But if Montreal can stay as good as they were this past season, the Atlantic could be really, really tough. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below in terms of how you think the Montreal Canadiens are going to do. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.